Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, you guys, I've missed you so much. Welcome back to another episode of the WOFB, where I'm Cameron Matheny, your host, principal of Cameo Studio Designs, and founder of Designer Dopamine. Today, I am so excited that I get to really chat with some ladies that I think that you're going to absolutely love. You may even know. But today, I am meeting with Shannon and Kerry, and they are waiting backstage from Reach Social Media. This episode today is going to be super exciting. Know though that this podcast is proudly presented by the WOFB and sponsored by my company, Cameo Studio Designs. There you have it, and also LATICRETE. And now a word from our sponsor. If you are a DIY enthusiast, a contractor, or a tile expert, we are super excited to be sponsored by LATICRETE because they have a spotlight on a ton of brands but that are synonymous with quality and innovation. If you don't know LATICRETE, you should. The industry is a leading products from LATICRETE offer complete system solutions from the substrate up through the grout for virtually any type of product. So if you are looking for product, look no further than LATICRETE for all your adhesives, grouts, and waterproofing needs. But why LATICRETE, you ask? Because, guys, they've been in the business for over 65 years, and LATICRETE has built their reputation tile by tile. And their products are globally proven and trusted by professionals for their superior performance and ease of use. So whether you are working on a bathroom, makeover, kitchen backsplash, or expansive commercial projects, LATICRETE offers installation solutions to make your vision come to life. And this I know for sure that we will talk more about how LATICRETE sponsored, showed up, and helped an all-female crew and myself install a floor overnight. So LATICRETE, they have you covered. For those of you just joining me, today we are in season 2 of the hammer versus honey approach in work life and all of the things. As a hammer builds strength and honey feeds growth, the metaphor contrasting persuasion, but also problem solving. So today, as I mentioned, I am chatting with Shannon Vogel, and she is the proud founder and owner of Reach Social. She's a certified social media strategist and a 25-year veteran of the flooring and interior design industry. Plus, she is accompanied by the beautiful Kerry Davis, vice president at Reach Social, who brings 30 years of experience to the flooring industry. And she has also appeared on, one day I hope to be there. But guys, she's appeared on HGTV and spoken at national conferences. So ladies, thank you. Welcome to the WOFB.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Oh, you are so welcome. You ladies look so beautiful with your wonderful hairstyles and your wonderful glasses. I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. So Shannon, I'm super excited that you and I have finally connected on a platform like the podcast. I find you just to be a really interesting woman from the day that I met you, from the day that I've heard you speak. I know a little bit about Reach Social, but can you tell our audience of what that journey has looked like through finding Reach Social and how it's evolved over the years?
Yeah, so it's an interesting journey, and I'll take you all the way back to I originally went to school to be a therapist, and I knew exactly what I was going to do, exactly how I was going to do it. I had a plan, and I had not yet learned that the universe just laughs and laughs and laughs when you make a plan. So I got redirected, and somewhere around graduation day at college, my daddy goes, "Yeah, so what are you going to do when the first person offs themselves because of something you said?" And I was like, "Bro, do you see the cap and gown? Like, you and mom have already paid the bill. What are we doing here?" And I said, "Well, if I shouldn't be a therapist, what should I do?" And he goes, "Well, you should come back and work for the family flooring store in Sherrill, South Carolina." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I just spent my whole life trying to get out of here." And next thing I know, I'm doing all the things I said I'd never do. I got married, I lived in a brick house, I had a Labrador, and all the things, and I worked in a family flooring store. Turns out it was the best decision that I ever could have made. I wouldn't change any of it. So I did interior design, commercial, residential, all the things. And one day, Susie homeowner broke me. It was during one of the times when people were spending money they didn't have. And I'm convinced that this woman, her husband paid me to babysit her. And
wow.
I told her all the things like, you got to wait until all the pictures are hung in the bathroom before you can, decide if you like it. Like there's a lot of moving parts. Just trust me. I see your vision. We'll do all the things. So we get
Right.
almost to the end and she says, I'm really mad at you today. And I don't think that I like my bathroom because the brass on the floor vents doesn't match the brass on the faucets. So I said, okay, like got my woosah on, calmed down a little bit. And I was like, well, you really need to wait until the towels are hung and the picture is back on the wall. And at that moment, like she broke me. I didn't want to do it anymore. And at that same time,
you were a little honey approach there, it sounds like.
It was a moment. And then I ended up getting a divorce, moving to a bigger city. And I met Kerry somewhere along the way. And we had this thing where Kerry says, every day that you hate your job, you have to put a red X on a blank calendar. And when you get through the end of the month and you have more red X's than you have blank spaces, you have to quit your job, leave your husband, stop shopping at that supermarket, whatever it is that you're trying to measure. And my red X calendar looked like the Sharpie factory blew up.
It filled up
on my on my paper. So I said, okay, I got to quit. Now what? And coincidentally, at the same time, Kerry came to me and said, hey, we got this opportunity that we think only you can really fill the shoes for. And that was writing the blog for the WFCA. And this was back in 2007. So and we're thinking like, who's going to read a online article, internet thing about flooring? Nobody cares.
I had no idea what a blog was, mind you. And so I called Shannon. So I'm like, I know you know technology, design, and you're the only person that I know that can marry those two together where somebody might actually read it and listen to it. So, do you know what a blog is? And if you do, you have a job. And then that'll take care of one of our red X's because we can work together, which was always a goal.
Yeah. Kerry, I love that too. I mean, as the vice president of Reach Social, it seems like that, well, I would like to know more, but what are your prime responsibilities to help Shannon then kind of fulfill that vision of Reach Social?
Mostly it's content strategy and implementing what we feel like is going to be the best approach for our customers to reach their customers, and making sure what we're putting out there and we're representing them authentically to the best of our ability, be the experts that they don't have time to be. And make sure that we're putting that out there in their authentic voice and maintaining those customer relationships. Also, I think between Shannon and I mean, we're a little like black and white, which is kind of cute that we ended up like this.
I love that.
But we always joke that we're black and white, and we bring different skill sets, different personalities to the table, but it becomes the perfect recipe as a team. And so together we can go farther, because we complement each other that way, and how we can work with our clients. So she has expertise in things that I don't get involved in touch. And then there are things that she can turn over to me that are more my sweet spot and I can run with. And I really love, and we laugh all the time. And she would say like, oh, I have to do this today. And I'm like, oh, let me do it. Or I'm like, oh, I hate this. It always, gets me stuck or I bog down. And she's like, and she fixed it.
I love this.
Yeah. So
I'd love to see that ping pong. I mean, already we're just a few minutes in the conversation, and just the fluid, how the both of you are flowing. I mean, sitting there, it's like yin and yang. I mean, you say the black and white, but that's what that reminds me of, is like the yin and the yang. And, I love how when we're just talking here and the both of you just work so beautifully together with that synchronicity. Shannon, with women that are in leadership and empowerment, I know one of the very first times I met you, and we're going to jump into that a little bit later, I met you because you were on stage at a women's conference, and you're well known in the industry as a public speaker and impact speaker. How do you use your platform that you have for other women in the business through social media? Can you touch on that just a bit?
Yeah, so I try to show up, and tying into what Kerry was saying just a minute ago, the difference between us, we're very similar. Like we've been best friends for over 20 years, but also I cuss a lot. She, I try to get her to cuss every once in a while. Like we have completely different approaches to things. I'll drop the
I
F
love that.
in the middle of a word, and Kerry, she'll, Shannon, but then also she's like, well, that's who you are, and so that part works. I say all that to say that I try to show up as real and authentically as I can to give people permission to be their authentic self and to buck the system and burn down society's checklist and question everything so that they can figure out who they are, so that they can then show up as who they were meant to be, not who, I call it emotional frosting that we've all been,
Right.
put on our cupcake. So I try to just show up and give people permission to be who they are and stop apologizing and stop hustling for their worth. Because it's hard being in a male dominated industry. Like it,
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for anything, but let's get real. Like it's not always easy.
And start
I think
asking.
I was going to say, I think I need a Kerry because I'm an HR nightmare and completely unenjoyable.
Yes. I am a walking HR violation.
I feel like we need a little bell for like
Right.
violations, or like when I stray over to Shannon's side, if I cuss, then she's like, oh,
Yeah.
and it's a whole celebration.
Yeah, right.
But I was going to add to what Shannon was saying. One thing that I've learned from her that has been really valuable, and I think something that we try to pass on to other women, is asking questions and being able to have your voice and understand who you are, your position of power, standing in your power. And one of the phrases that she taught me that I use all the time is it true? It's a question to ask yourself, oh, I feel this, or, oh, they'll think that if I do this or say that. And she'll say, is that true? Who
I'm
said?
making a note.
And it's like, oh, great question. Is it true, or did I just make that up? Is that,
Right.
I've been conditioned.
have I been conditioned to believe that and act that way? So that's a great way she empowers people.
I think that that's so important, Shannon. You and I, have some parallels in this industry. As I was in social work 20s. And so being able to navigate and work through and helping people come from a place of their social construction and their own thoughts and their own schisms that they've created that they just continue to play over and over again in their head of, whenever I work in this industry with women, I just went through this where I'm like, you have to stand in your power. And I've been running job sites, commercial job sites now for 6 years. I've had all men that are, great allies that have been in my corner doing my installations, but, not one of them, when there's a little bit of a, Kerry, don't kill me here, but when there's a little bit of a fuck up there, my allies that are working on my job are the first to throw me under the bus. And do you know, I put together an all women crew just last week. And for the first time when I wasn't on a job site, that woman stood in her power and represented me and represented what we were doing and said, Cameron is a powerhouse, and anything she does, I stand behind, and this is how we're doing this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this.
Right. And that's moving forward, right? Is being able to not only stand in your power, but stand in her power, and vice versa, right? We have to stand in each other's power and support each other and champion each other and not break down and criticize. We have to stand together and talk about and promote and celebrate when they're not in the room and when they are in the room.
Straighten each other's crowns.
Right.
Cameron, that's why I was so attracted to
and
you when
so
froze a little.
It froze for just a second.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're back. What were you saying now?
I was just saying that's why I was so attracted to you when you were in that first session. You sat at the back of the room in that bright pink, and you were so strong in your power just by sitting there. I was like, I actually, for the first time standing on stage, I was like, oh my God, there might be somebody in the audience that doesn't need to hear this. And I thought, she's already got her shit together. She doesn't need to hear any of this. And then, turns out that's never true. It's always the women that look the strongest that don't ever, people don't always support and tell them you're beautiful, you're strong, you're all these amazing things. And I call it the Kerry Davis syndrome. Like, people don't generally walk up to her and say, "Oh my gosh, you look so pretty," because they assume that she knows she does, because she always looks good.
Right.
And she needs to hear it just as much as anybody else.
Everybody wants to hear it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'll never forget seeing you at the back of the room. And I was like,
remember
that is a force that I must know. And then you opened your mouth and I was like,
Hi. Hi. And here we are. So, you know, we touched on this a little bit. This season 2 has been really about what I call the hammer versus honey approach, that metaphor of coming into a job or coming into a situation with either the hammer that really brings that power, or, you know, that sets those boundaries, or the honey, which is more empathetic, sympathetic, and can, like, you know, coddle, so to speak. That's the metaphor, at least, that I sometimes use. I'm known as bringing the hammer, always have. But what do you think is your leadership style, both of you, and how would you describe those styles and work together to inspire maybe your team or clients?
So I'd say my leadership style, I don't know that this is technically a style, but I hire really strong people that, like, Kerry runs her own department. Like, she could do all of it on her own, and every once in a while she has a question that is not Googleable. But I think hiring people that are, you know, already empowered and strong and just you know, run their own ship and have their shit together, that's who I like to be surrounded by. And then hopefully I show up with the empowerment and motivation and love and all the gooey stuff and all the empathy and sympathy and all of those things, to round it out. Nobody's ever asked me that question, so that's my wall answer.
I love it. It's great. Yeah. And what about you, Kelly?
I think when I think about leading others, I love to try and think of myself, and I don't know, I don't think this is mine. I think I heard this somewhere, so I'm going to give credit to whoever it goes to, is being kind of a lantern carrier, or like the torch bearer. I think I love to be that person out front that's shining the way, right? Lighting the way. This is the direction we go. These are the steps on how you get there, to empower them and teach them. And I really enjoy that. I love training. I love bringing in somebody new and trying to assess their skills and being able to grow that. But I also think, like, for me, the end goal is to be able to then step back, still with my light, but let them lead. And let them chart their own course. And there's going to be opportunities where you have to step in and shine light on something that's a new experience for them, a question, a challenge, or a failure. And I hope there are failures, because then that means we're out there doing something, right? And we're forging new paths and collecting new skills and new experiences. But you have to fail along the way. That's how we all learn. And so I always try to be like that light that is either out in front or behind, or sometimes I have to step in and illuminate the whole thing.
Girl, you are speaking to my soul with all that light talk. I love it. Also, so both of you, it seems like that you're influencers through Reach social media. And I'm really curious, as we talk about social media influence, how do the both of you see social media evolving as a tool for women to stand in their power, but particularly through women in a male-dominated industry like flooring, tile, etc.?
So I think social media is so great because it gives a woman the opportunity to have her own voice, use her voice, and not have to ask permission. Like, a woman today with social media in the flooring industry can say whatever she wants, however she wants to say it, as much as she wants to say it. She doesn't have to go through any, you know, and I'm not bagging on men, but she doesn't have to go through the chain of men in order to let somebody else decide if she's allowed to say this or not. So you can show up authentically as who you are instantly.
Yes.
As often as you want.
And I think one of the other benefits is that, I mean, I agree with everything that Shannon just said, but also that you can either create your own community or become a part of a community. And that's just important for everybody. But especially if we're focusing on women and in this industry, you have people that you can turn to, share opinions, get advice, and nobody wants to be alone, right? It's such a great journey to be able to have people alongside you, people who've gone before you. So having that community has really become empowering.
I think so too. And you bring up a really good point, and I've talked about this before, but my background is lighting design. I was still in the lighting industry for 10 years prior to getting into the tile industry. And the lighting industry is amazing. It's a lot like the fashion industry. It's very like all of the things that they're doing are just so insane. And I've been a part of a mentor through Women in Lighting, Wild Women in Lighting and Design. But no, that industry did not embrace me like the flooring business, the tile business. That time that I met you, Shannon, I also met Michelle Winters, and her and I also connected. And she saw something in me that I didn't even see, that I didn't even know I was good at. And 3 months ago, she came to me and said, "You need to be a host of a podcast. Your voice, people listen to you. You are so powerful to hear." And here we're now on episode 18. So you're right. Just through like social media, just through the things of, giving women a platform, because I thought, oh, it's, corporate, it's this, it's that. And I mean, again, people know I'm unemployable in a social or a human resource nightmare, but they don't care. They embrace me for who I am. And I think that, you bring up, that's such a powerful thing that you just said. So thank you both for sharing that. Speaking of being authentic and building authentic brands, what advice would you give to women entrepreneurs on building their authentic brand through like social media platforms?
I would say first, do the work to figure out who you are, who you really, really are, and then show up unapologetically with that voice. And there's a lot running around right now on all of the groups about video. And I think it's Jerry that's saying, just do the video, like just get started. I don't even care if it's good.
Right.
Get in the habit of practicing, of showing up, set your fears aside and just start showing up, like do the best you can. And if you're not ready to be on video or on a podcast, like start commenting on other people's posts and get your voice out there. And the more comfortable you get, then, your ultimate goal is to get out. To me, your ultimate goal is to get out there and get on video or get on a podcast where you can be authentic, tell your story, make sure you have a story to tell. And if not, work on your business so that you have a good story to tell and tell everything. Talk about your community involvement, talk about who you are as a person, because people buy from people. But I think it all starts with a strong inner core of knowing who you are so that you can then put that out into the world.
Man, that's deep. You are so right, though.
So good.
Yeah. And Kerry, do you have anything that you would like to add to that as far as, you've been on TV, you know what that feels like.
Yes, briefly. I agree with what Shannon said. I guess what I would add to it is that you still have to step into fear. Even though it is important to do the work and know your power, but that's a journey. To me, that's not a destination because it changes all the time. And sometimes you wake up and you feel like, I got this. And there are other days where you wake up and you're like, I'm terrified to do that. And you have to step in and do it anyway. And not be afraid to fail, not be afraid of what somebody's going to say or what they're going to think. And it becomes a little pep talk. And I was just talking to someone else about this a couple of weeks ago. And I forget who this challenge came from. Maybe it was Mel Robbins. But she was talking about high-fiving yourself in the mirror every morning. And for 5 days in a row to create this habit. And so I was telling somebody else, we should do that. We should high-five ourselves in the mirror every morning. And it's not easy. To me, it was a little intimidating, but it's so easy to do with somebody else. Like it wouldn't faze me to tell Shannon, like, you got this, you'll kill this, Fiverr. But to do that to yourself and recognizing you have power, you have fear, it's okay, but you can step into that still and do it. And it just moves you forward. So,
and I think it's also important to acknowledge a couple things. Kerry taught me early on in our friendship, not to always show up as having my shit together and having all the answers and all the things. She's like, could you please just be messy for once? And
I would call her, this is way back when, I would call her and I would say, so how are you? And she'd go, I'm fantastic. And I was like every day you're fantastic. It's so annoying.
And I thought nobody wanted to hear anything else. Like I thought everybody
Right.
wanted me to be the one, the cheerleader telling you like, I'm fantastic and you can be too.
And it changed our friendship, don't you think?
Yeah.
The morning that I called her and said, how are you? And she's like, and I don't know what you said, but it wasn't fantastic. And I was like, I'm not celebrating that you're unhappy, but thank God. Because you just can't be fantastic every day. Tell me what's going on. And it really allowed us to like take that barrier down and just be real.
Yeah. So when you do the work to figure out who you are and show up authentically, there are bumps that are going to come in the road. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep staying on the path, but there are going to be days where, or periods where your voice, like there are times, it's not my story to tell, but there are times, you know, maybe when your voice got taken away and you didn't feel like, you know, you had the same power that you had. Like that's part of the process and part of the journey of getting back. So I don't want everybody to think that like, oh, it's easy. You're just supposed to figure out who you are, stand in the mirror, high five yourself. And now you're going to, you know, you're going to be great.
There's nothing easy about it.
Yeah. It's not easy and it's a messy path, but God, it's rewarding.
Absolutely. You know, I love that this actually segues right into the next thing that I kind of wanted to talk to the both of you about, and that is experiences and challenges. And I love that you brought up about bringing yourself to a space and not always having it together. And Shannon, you know, I'm going to revert back to the first time that I met you at that women's conference. And I'll never forget, and these were some notes that I took. So I just want to share this real fast. In the notes that I took from that first conference, that you spoke to my soul. It was as if you knew exactly what I needed to hear that day. And it was, what if you stopped wondering if you're good enough and started acting like you were? You have a choice to take charge, that you woke up on the right side of the dirt, start with a smile on your face. You were born enough, and then the world got its hands on you. Some bullshit someone else told you you're not enough. You deserve to be here. What is your superpower, and what brings you joy? What lights your soul on fire? And girl, stop apologizing. That to me, to hear it that day, whenever you were done speaking, actually, I wasn't wearing a pink dress that day. The first time we met, I was wearing a navy blue dress.
Oh,
but I wore a pink dress before. That's the second time I think we met. But that day you got off stage because I raised my hand and I congratulated you for being so powerful in a room full of people that you didn't know, or maybe some that you did, but that you were able to convey yourself and speak with such power that for me, like I said, it just spoke to me. And you came off stage and that's when you actually hugged me. But being in that place, you saw something in me. You thought that I had my shit together, and you thought that I had, you know, was this person, when honestly, I think it was January. I had just left a horrible relationship with 2 suitcases and traveled across the country and had no direction. Left my business, left everything. And then was in this place of, here I am now. I am so free. This feels so good. So the only reason why I know that was a navy dress, because I spent $3,000 on my shoes and another $1,500 on the rest of that outfit. So I knew what I was wearing.
You know what? That is such a great point, because what I must have been attracted to was your authenticity. Like sometimes when you're so raw and so like at the bottom, that's when you're your most real self, because you can't bullshit.
She tells me that all the time. She'll say like, I love it when you get messy. And I'm like, I'm at the store in my slippers. And she's like, I love it. I love it. Tell me more.
Well, I was on the flip. I was a mess inside, but on the outside, I couldn't be a mess. I had to, and I think that I'm sure we've all read about this or seen this. Even if you're feeling in a certain headspace, do those things that make you feel good. Put on that perfume that you smell good. Just do something. Get your nails painted, dress up, even if you're working from home. So those little things, at least for me, fashion does that for me.
You're grabbing your power from the inside and the best way that you can. That's amazing.
Right. Absolutely.
Nothing a pair of Jimmy Choos won't fix.
What? I know.
That's my motto.
I am so guilty for that. I love that you bring that up. So being an inspiring leader, what advice do the both of you have for women that are aspiring to step into leadership roles? I know you kind of touched on social media, but maybe someone that's listening to this isn't in the flooring business, or they're aspiring to be an entrepreneur. What would be something that you could share with them to kind of get them to that next catapult?
I think believe that you deserve it. Believe that you're worthy. And then start acting like it. You have to dig deep and believe that you are worth being a leader and that you have something to say and you can influence people, and figure out what your superpower is and start sharing it. And even if you see where you want to be, but you have to take baby steps to get there, just get started. Like tell your fear to sit in the back seat and just get started.
And I would add to that, surround yourself with good people and people that have the skills, the experiences, the perspective that you aspire to have, or that just inspire you and your growth. And so whether that's just having a mentor or it's people that you socialize with, just making sure that you have that community to lean on, to share, to drive you forward. Again, because I mean, like, who wants to go it out alone? I think just having good people around you makes the difference.
Our friend Mel,
huge.
Our friend Mel Talley has a women's group called Unsubscribe, and it's a bunch of strong women that all get together once a month. And you don't really realize the power and the impact of it until you miss a month. But that group of women, like, we feed each other and we build each other up, and it sustains us through until the next month. So I totally agree with surrounding yourself with a strong community. I mean, and this is another example, like, this is an online, very strong community. So being a part of this is critical.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, unsubscribe. How do I get involved in that? That sounds amazing.
I know we need to figure out how to get people in virtually or just come to Denver, but she has it's on Facebook. And
that's amazing.
When you read the description, it's unsubscribing to bullshit. There are times where I have shown up in sweatpants and in tears. There's sometimes I've shown up in a fur coat with my, ass on my shoulders and my Jimmy Choos. You show up as who you are that day, and everyone embraces you for who you are.
It's the most incredible group of women I've ever been a part of in 30 years in this industry.
I know. I feel like everyone's going to need to do an unsubscribe podcast.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds fabulous. So some closing thoughts here. We've talked a lot about women standing in their power. That's really what this podcast too is truly about. How do each of you define standing in your power, and how has that concept influenced your own personal and professional lives?
I'm going to keep saying this exact same thing over and over. Figure out who you are. Don't apologize for it. Celebrate it, and keep practicing. Like, stay in the flow, stay in alignment with who you really are, and fight as hard as you have to fight every single day to stay true to yourself. And I think the rest will work itself out.
I love that.
Yeah. Because then you're going to start attracting other people with that kind of energy. And then, and it's just going to keep compounding and growing.
Well, and when you can be your authentic self and stand in your power, it gives permission to other people to do the same.
You're the example.
They see that and like, I can do that. I know I can do that. Or I see in her what I feel like I can aspire to be. Or who I am, and I'm not showing up for myself, and I'm mad about it. I need to get out there and do it. And so it helps bring all of us along together, right? And be on that journey. And to me, I said this earlier, but it's a journey. It's not a destination. It's taking the time to know yourself. It's changing, because if you don't change, then life's not going to move forward. And so it's always revisiting that and getting comfortable and understanding your powers and your skills, and then going out and collecting new ones. It's like, go find some new stuff to throw in your bag and bring it to the table. It may not work for everybody, but that's okay.
And don't apologize for your growth.
And it will make other people sometimes get mad when you shine, because they haven't found their light yet. Right. And but that's not a reflection on you. It's not a good or a bad. You just move forward and do you.
Yeah. And it's on you to decide if you want to set a boundary and say, I don't have the space for that. Or if you want to scoop that person up and say, hey, I see you. I see that you're in pain or struggling here. I can be the light if you choose to accept it.
And I think that's important. We didn't really talk a lot about this, but as far as having boundaries and saying no, that's something that we've worked on a lot, talked about a lot over these past few years of, yes, it's important to show up. Yes, it's important to do things and be the best version of yourself. But that doesn't work for every situation, for every person that you encounter, for every client. It sometimes is not a good fit. And being able to have just as much comfort and confidence in saying no and walking away from certain situations is just as empowering.
It's so powerful when you say no to something that's not in alignment, and then you don't spend 6 months cleaning up a situation you shouldn't have been in to start with.
Girl, I know. I love that so much. I think that we could sit and talk for hours about all of this stuff and maybe even have an entire episode on it. The both of you bring so much knowledge, so much authenticity, so much beauty, and I'll say it again, so much power to this stage. And I know whoever listens to this is going to take something away that they needed to hear. So I give you accolades and thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your experiences and all of your professional advice for women in this industry.
Thanks for giving us the opportunity just to be in your space.
And so this is your social. What are some of your other socials that people can find you?
So we tell everybody, go to our website if you want to follow us for the business. All the icons are on there. And if they're not on your website for your business, make sure that they are, because that's how people find you. And personally, I'm Shannon Vogel everywhere on every social site. I'm not going to play with you on Snapchat, but everything else I will participate in.
Yeah. And I'm Kerry O'Brien Davis on online.
That is so amazing. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I look to connect with you after, and I'll give you all of the bells and whistles for you to share this with anyone else that you would like to share. And again, thank you for believing in this podcast. Thank you for believing in me and giving me your energy and time today.
You make it easy.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye. I love you. Bye.
Guys, oh my God, what a powerhouse group those ladies were. I am so ecstatic that I have sponsors like LATICRETE also being pushed by the WoFB, and then my company also sponsoring this podcast. And a word from our sponsor, if you can imagine products that not only meet but exceed the toughest industry standards with third-party certifications to back them up, with LATICRETE, you get that peace of mind of solutions with design to stand the test of time. That's LATICRETE Promise. So whether you're a seasonal professional or just working or starting on your own DIY journey, trust that LATICRETE is your partner in creating spaces that are not only beautiful, but are meant to last. With almost 7 decades of setting industry standards, LATICRETE is the name that architects, designers, professional installers know and rely on. So choose LATICRETE for your next partner for tile and stone, and happy building from LATICRETE. Also, if you are interested in offering a CEU for your showroom or design center, check out, let's go to it, CameoStudioDesigns.com, where I teach 1 credit for a CEU for designer dopamine. And that is all about enticing dopaminergic reactions to your lighting design and installation. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, please reach out to the WoFB at podcast@flooring.com, where you can get all of the great information and know about conversations that are happening, but also future podcasts. Coffee with Cameo, when I really unpack more about designer dopamine as the design tool for your designers, but also talking with Georgia Ezra from the creative director of Tile of Ezra from Australia. And I'm also chatting with Leslie Godden, journalist of the Tile Artisan. So I am super excited to chat with these ladies. And you can also join the WOFB along with other women to be a part of the conversation. You can find us on the Facebook conversations and chat with me, thousands others. And here's LATICRETE too. So go to laticrete.com. We've covered it all. Here's your podcast, Reaching Your Pockets, be a sponsor, womenflooring.com. And that is it for this one. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Cameron with the WOFB.